Amen. We're running behind schedule, so we're going to do this very quickly. I want to just share with you why I'm in the Marco Rubio camp. To know somebody is to pray with them. To know somebody is to do Bible study with them. To know somebody is to know their family and watch how they parent. Well, I've got to do all those things with Marco Rubio. So I know his heart. And if you look at America today, what is challenging us is where's our heart? If you look at the campaign today, whether it's Ted Cruz or Donald Trump, all right, hang on. Or Casey or Dr. Ben Carson, I know them all. But I'm throwing my lot in with a man who I know has the integrity and the character to lead our country. You see, he's going to lead us to higher aspirations. He's going to call on us to do something greater than what we've done. There's no problem in front of this country that can't be solved with great leadership. And we'll have a leadership that brings us together rather than leadership that divides us. So if you would, think for a moment about leadership that's about fixing the problems, not the symptoms. And the problems are real, and you don't solve those problems if you're treating symptoms. And Marco Rubio has endorsed one of the things I think will fix our country, which is Convention of States. He was one of the first presidential candidates to do that. And if we want to fix our country, we have to do that. Sorry, I was ignoring you. So if you would, welcome to the stage one of the greatest men I know, Marco Rubio.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. It's got her fired up. Thank you. I am honored to be with you all here today. I'm really honored. Thank you so much. This is so uplifting. This is our 5th event of the day. When I started out this morning, I didn't have a voice. So somehow, some way, we've pushed through with the help of a lot of friends, and we wind up here tonight because of a great God. That's exactly right. I prayed a lot. I prayed, God, give me the voice to make it to Tulsa. And I'm so honored to be with you today. This is our last stop. We'll be in Minnesota tomorrow morning because they have a caucus. But in terms of the primaries, this is the last place. This is where we wanted to be. First of all, I'm so honored to be with you here today, and I'm honored to be alongside someone who I admire deeply. Tom Coburn, to me, he is missed dearly in the United States Senate. You got James Lankford is phenomenal as a senator. We are so happy to have him. Jim Inhofe is a great friend, a strong supporter of ours, and we're excited to have him. I just wish Oklahoma could have 3 senators. But Tom Coburn is someone that I just admire tremendously as a person first. But also, this was a person, I'll never forget, he used to say all the time, he would do what was right. He was never worried about the politics of it or what the press was going to say about it or what the next election would be about. He was always doing what was right. You don't understand what an incredible example that was to me starting out in the United States Senate. And I'm so honored to have his support. And I'm happy to be with all of you here today alongside a great governor from Louisiana, Bobby Jindal. I'm so proud of his support. And I'm sorry, it's a little warm in here tonight, right? I see you guys fanning yourselves. I'll tell you what, I'll take off my jacket. How's that? I don't need the water. All right, well, a little late for my voice. All right, let's get to work. We're excited about being here with all of you. And again, I know, first of all, don't lock your knees, okay? The last 3 events we've done, we had people pass out. They locked their knees. It isn't because my speech is that impressive. It's because... So I want to let you know that, especially because it's a little warm in here. We're not talking about that today. We're not talking about that. It was fun while it lasted, but I wanted this to be a serious selection about the future of America. In essence, I want this to be a serious selection about all these young people that are here. And pretty rowdy, by the way. You know, one of the things I've pointed out is it's not a coincidence that in America, we have a significant number of young conservative leaders in their 40s and early 50s. Bobby Jindal's here. Susana Martinez in New Mexico. Brian Sandoval in Nevada. Ted Cruz in Texas. Myself in Florida. Rand Paul in Kentucky. Scott Walker in Wisconsin. The list goes on and on. James Lankford in the great state of Oklahoma. What is it? Why is it? Who are the young up-and-coming leaders in the Democratic Party? Bernie Sanders is their young and up-and-coming leader, I suppose. So what is it? Why is it that the conservative movement has these young people in their 40s and early 50s who are now ready to lead our country? The one thing we all have in common is that we grew up when Ronald Reagan was in the White House. We are a generation. I should sit. This might take a while because I got some work to do. We grew up in the era of Reagan. The era of Reagan that helped define what it meant to be a conservative. And let me tell you what the era of Reagan was never about. It was never about anger. It was never about fear. It was never about division. But Reagan understood our problems. He understood them better than anybody. I love to see, by the way, young people wearing these Reagan Bush hats, 1980 or 1984 hats. You weren't even born, so that's awesome that that's still alive. But good parenting, he said, some guy. I have to say back, whatever the people say in the crowd, I have to repeat it, because if not, the press will say, what did they say and why didn't you disavow it? So I said, that's a good line, good parenting. The conservative movement's never been about anger. The conservative movement's never been about fear. Now, Reagan understood our issues as well as anybody. He was realistic about our challenges, but Reagan was optimistic about our opportunities. I know that was 36 years ago, but the principles still apply. I can tell you that I became a conservative because I grew up with a grandfather who influenced me greatly by talking to me about not just the role of America in the world, but how special America was. But here's the thing. 36 years later, in this election, we must once again define what it means to be a conservative. And it could not come at a more important time. For in 2016, this nation faces a referendum. This election is not just a choice about who gets to win or who's going to be in the White House or what party is going to be in charge. This election is a referendum on our identity as a nation and as a people. And I can tell you that if this nation remains on the road it is on right now, it will lose the things that makes it a special country. There can be no doubt America is a special country. I've lived it. Most of us here in this room today have lived our whole lives in the United States. My parents were born somewhere else. When you are raised by people that know what life is like outside of America, you know your entire life how special life is inside of America. And why is it special? I believe it began at our founding. Unlike any nation on earth, we were founded on a spiritual principle. The principle that our rights do not come from government, and our rights do not come from the law, and our rights do not come from our leaders. Our rights come from an all-powerful God who has given us the right to life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. For over 200 years, we have held to those principles, and the result has been nothing short of a miracle. In almost any other nation on earth, your future is decided by who your parents are. Your future is decided by what kind of family you come from. It doesn't matter in most countries in the world how hard you work. It doesn't matter in most countries in the world how good you are. You can only go as far as your family's connections allow you to go. Not here, not in America. We are the one place on earth that believes that you have a God-given right to go as far as your talent and your work will take you. But that was not automatic. That didn't happen on its own. That happened because for over 200 years, each generation did what they needed to do to keep it that kind of country. And now the time has come to make that decision for ourselves. Now the moment has arrived for this generation to make a decision about what kind of country we want to be in this new century. I can tell you what kind of country we're going to be if we stay on the road we're on right now. We will be a great nation in decline. We'll still be a rich country. We'll still be an important country. But we'll no longer be a special one. The American dream of upward mobility, the American dream that if you work hard you can get ahead, we're losing it. It's slipping away. And it's happening because our leaders in both parties have failed us. And it's happened because for far too long we haven't confronted our problems. It's happened because for far too long we haven't confronted our challenges. And it's happening because we're allowing our opportunities to slip through our fingers. The only thing that can reverse this is for us to elect someone to the White House and at the highest levels of government who will lead us back to the principles that made us great to begin with. Someone like me, yeah. I have the best hecklers. I have the best hecklers. I love it. You made me lose my train of thought. Anyway, the only way is that we get back to those principles. And you know what that will require? That will require America to re-embrace the principles we describe as conservatism, of limited government, of free enterprise, a strong national defense, the values that shape this country. We must return to those principles. And so we need a strong conservative movement. But what's at stake for you as Republicans here tomorrow in Oklahoma is the question of what it means to be a conservative. And we cannot ignore polls at this moment. We cannot ignore the news that tells us that the front runner of the Republican Party is Donald Trump. Here's the problem with that. Let me tell you a story. Last Thursday we had a debate. And in that debate, for the first time, I confronted Donald pretty strongly about all of these issues. And a lot of people said, oh. And a lot of people said, oh, you really stood up for yourself. No, I didn't. It's not for me. I didn't stand up for myself. I stood up for you. I stood up for the conservative movement. I stood up for the party of Lincoln and of Reagan. You see, earlier that day, I had received an email with a video link. And I usually don't click on those video links because I worry maybe they're looking to see if they can get into Hillary's emails using mine. I've never emailed with her. I'm just kidding, but I'm just saying. And I click on this video, and it's a video. Look, this is not a personal attack. Okay, I want you to understand this is going to be relevant in a moment. It was a video about something called Trump University. And Donald Trump was in a promotional video, and he was saying, I'm going to start this university. And we're going to hire the best people, the smartest people. We're going to have the best people working for us. And we're going to do these phenomenal things. And if you sign up for my course, you're going to be successful. You're going to get tired of being successful. You're going to be so successful. And by the way, if you don't become successful after signing up for Trump University, then you're never going to be successful. Because if you can't make it here, you can't make it anywhere. A lot of people believed him. He sold himself as the most famous businessman in the world who had shaped the skyline of New York. And people went out and paid $15,000 for that course. It gets worse. Some people, when they got there, they were told, listen, the $15,000 course is good, but the big bucks, you want to make the big bucks? You got to pay $36,000 for the course. You got to take the gold course. And they said, well, I don't have the money. I'd have to go into debt. I don't want to go into debt. And they said, you can go into debt. All great businesses start out with some debt. People did it. There are people that borrowed $36,000, a lot of them. They're contacting me now, by the way, and they got nothing. They got scammed. What the only thing they got, if they were lucky, was a picture with a cardboard cutout of Donald Trump. Why do I say that to you? That's a horrible story. No one should get scammed that way. But I realized after watching that video, my goodness, he is doing to the American voter what he did to the students at Trump University. It's the exact same thing. It's not a policy-based campaign. He literally has anytime he's pressed on policy, he has no answer of any depth. And you may think, well, some people say, well, that doesn't matter anymore. It should matter. It has to matter. How can you hold someone accountable if they won't tell you what they're going to do? But the bigger part of the scam is the issues he's picking on. He is going to America. He knows the American people are angry. He knows Americans are frustrated. He knows Americans are scared. And he's preying on that. He's tapping into that in a very negative way. And what he's telling people is, vote for me because I'm going to stop illegal immigration. But he doesn't tell them that Trump Tower was built with illegal immigrant labor. He tells them he's going to protect American jobs from foreigners, but he doesn't tell them that, for example, in Florida, last year 300 Americans applied for jobs at a hotel. He didn't hire them. He hired foreigners to do that job because he said he couldn't find qualified Americans. I have 300 names of people that tried to do it, and they didn't get hired. He says he's going to bring back jobs from China. Well, he can start today, right now, by announcing that Trump ties and Trump shirts will no longer be built in China. They'll be built in America. He should announce that now. So he's selling himself off as a champion of the little guy. But let me tell you, the New York City is, and all across the country, is littered with little guys, with small contractors who, when his companies went bankrupt, they didn't get paid. They were the first people that didn't get paid, and some of them went out of business because of that. This is a scam of the highest order. The problem is, the stakes are not just a fake degree, and that's pretty bad. The stakes are the future of the greatest nation on earth. The stakes is the future of the party of Lincoln and Reagan. The stakes are the future of the conservative movement. Because whoever our nominee is going to define what conservatism means for millions and millions of people, especially millions of young people who are going to be growing up now the way I did 36 years ago when Ronald Reagan was president. And if we allow conservatism to be defined by what Donald Trump stands for, conservatism is dead. Conservatism as a movement in America is gone. And if we lose it, then there's nothing standing in the way of the big government agenda of the Democrats and of the liberals. That's how high the stakes are in this. And it's not, and he will lose this election if he's the nominee. The press, all these things I've just described about his record, they know all about it. They don't write about it. They write about the fact that I had 5 speeding tickets in 15 years or whatever it was in Florida. You know what that makes me? The best driver in Florida. By the way, there weren't speeding tickets, there were red light cameras. You want to talk about a scam. All right. But they don't talk about any of this in depth yet. But they will. You know that they will. You know that the minute he becomes the nominee, they're going to descend on him like hounds, and they are going to rip him to shreds. And so are the Democrats. And let me tell you another reason why he won't win. Because over the last 48 hours, Donald Trump has repeatedly been given the opportunity to denounce the Ku Klux Klan and David Duke, and he refuses to do it. They will tear him apart. This country is not going to elect someone that does not denounce the KKK. And in fact, there is no room in the Republican Party, and there is no room in the conservative movement for the KKK or David Duke or anyone who will not condemn them. If we nominate him, let me just tell you, a vote for Donald Trump tomorrow is literally a vote for Hillary Clinton in November. And it cannot happen. We cannot elect Hillary Clinton because if we do, first of all, you will have elected someone who was disqualified from being commander-in-chief. She lied to the families of the victims of Benghazi. And anyone who lies to the families of Americans who have lost their lives in the service of our country can never be the commander-in-chief of the United States of America. We lose this election, all of Obama's policies become permanent. All of them. Obamacare is here to stay. Hillary Clinton wins, all of these crazy executive orders are here to stay. She cannot be elected president of the United States. We must elect someone that isn't just a conservative, but a conservative that can unite our party and can grow the movement, and I will. You nominate me, I will unite the Republican Party. We will grow the conservative movement, and we will win this election. And then we'll turn this country around. You elect me president. For the first time in 8 years, you will have a president that follows the Constitution of the United States of America. We will defend your First Amendment right to live out the teachings of your faith. We will defend your Second Amendment right to protect yourself and your family. We will re-embrace the 10th Amendment, which says that real government power does not belong in Washington. It belongs at our states and in our local communities. You will know all this is true because on my first day in office, I will repeal every single one of Barack Obama's unconstitutional executive orders. We will appoint judges and justices that understand the Constitution is not a living and breathing document. It is to be applied and interpreted the way Scalia did, the way it was originally meant. That's how you apply the Constitution. And there's a way to change the Constitution and add things to it if you want. Not the First Amendment. We're not going to mess with that. Donald Trump, by the way, wants to change the First Amendment. He wants to make it easier to sue people that say mean things about him. My friends, there are not enough judges on the planet to deal with all of the lawsuits that would come. But if you want to change the First Amendment, there's a way to, if you want to change the Constitution, there's a way to do it. It's called Article 5. It's what Tom Coburn is working on. A convention of states for term limits on Congress, term limits on judges, a balanced budget amendment, and returning power to the states. And I will support that as president. I hope you'll support it as citizens. I hope Oklahoma will sign up for that this year. I hope all the states we need will sign up this year so you, the people, can get in charge of your government again. Not Washington, D.C., not unelected judges, and not a reckless president who violates the Constitution virtually every day he has been in this office. You elect me president, we'll re-embrace free enterprise. Because as the son of a bartender and a maid, I know free enterprise works. My parents had a job because someone opened up a hotel. They risked their money and hired them, and they were able to raise their families. Free enterprise works because it is the only economic model in the history of the world where you can make poor people richer, and you don't have to make rich people poorer, where you can lift everyone up. And that's why I've offered you, the voters, a serious plan on things that it will take to reinvigorate free enterprise. I encourage you to go on my website, marcorubio.com. You'll see a real plan to fix taxes. You'll see a real plan to roll back regulations. You'll see a real plan to fully utilize our energy resources. A real plan to save Social Security and Medicare. A real plan to balance our budget. A real plan to fully utilize all of the blessings of our free enterprise economy, and a real plan to fix health care, not just eliminating the lines around the states, but a plan to repeal and replace Obamacare once and for all. The most important job of a president is commander-in-chief. Barack Obama is a terrible commander-in-chief. Donald Trump is unqualified to be commander-in-chief. He thought the nuclear triad was a rock band. Barack Obama's weak as a commander-in-chief. The world has become extremely dangerous under his watch. North Korea has a lunatic with nuclear weapons. The Chinese government is stealing our secrets, stealing our inventions, hacking into our computers, massively building up their military, and taking over the South China Sea. Vladimir Putin sows instability in Europe and in the Middle East. Iran is about to receive $100 billion of sanctions relief because of Barack Obama's deal with Iran. Radical jihadists spread all over the world. ISIS has affiliates in 12 countries. And in the face of all these threats, he's gutting our military. We will soon have the smallest army since the end of World War II. The smallest navy in 100 years, the smallest air force in our history. Not if I'm president. Not if I'm president. When I'm president of the United States, we will undertake a Reagan-style rebuilding of the U.S. military. When I'm president, we're going to have a real war on terror. And that means the best intelligence agencies in the world will find these terrorists. The strongest military in the world will destroy them. And if we capture these terrorists alive, they don't have the right to remain silent. They're not coming to Oklahoma. They're going to Guantanamo. We're going to have a foreign policy of moral clarity, especially when it comes to one of our most important allies in the world, the State of Israel. At the last debate, Donald Trump said he's not going to pick sides between Israel and the Palestinian Authority. I'm going to pick sides. We're going to be on Israel's side. And that will begin on my first day in office, because I will immediately repeal Barack Obama's deal with the Ayatollah of Iran. And we're going to take care of our veterans. That's something Tom Coburn worked on a lot. We don't do that now. My brother's a veteran. A quarter of the calls to my office are veterans that have to argue with a VA. And there's people that are not doing it. There's people at the VA that are doing a great job. We thank them. There are people that are not doing a good job. When I'm president, if you're not doing a good job at the VA, you're going to be fired. And when I'm president, our veterans will be able to take their VA benefits to any hospital or any doctor that they want to go see. By the way, yesterday I was in Virginia. I was reminded that our veterans don't stop serving us when they come back. If you go to any fire station in America, any police department, you'll run into veterans. By the way, if you're a veteran, will you raise your hand so we can thank you? Thank you. Yesterday and the night before in Virginia, 3 police officers were shot. 1 was killed. She was a Marine on her first day on the job as a police officer. Her first day on the job. And so I just wanted to take a moment to thank our police officers and for our firefighters too, for everything they do for us. So let me wrap up by thanking you for being here. I have a few more words to say. I know it's warm. I see you guys. Me too, guys. Me too. And you have an important choice to make if you haven't made it already. Tomorrow, as I said, you'll get to vote here, not just to define who our nominee is, but the meaning of what it means to be a Republican and a conservative in the 21st century. An important step towards defining what it means what kind of country we're going to be in the 21st century as well. I want you to understand that this whole issue about America's future is deeply personal to me. It is for you too. I wanted to share with you why it's so personal for me. America is not just the country I was born in. America is the country that changed the history of my family. My parents arrived here in 1956 with nothing. They didn't know anyone. They didn't have any money. They didn't have much of an education. My dad stopped going to school when he was, I think, 4 days shy of his 9th birthday because his mother died. He had to if he wanted to eat. My mother had it hard too. One of 7 girls growing up in rural Cuba with a disabled father who struggled to provide for them. When they came here in 56, they had nothing. They barely spoke English. The first words my father learned were, "I'm looking for a job." Their life was very hard here in the first couple years. They were discouraged. They were discouraged. They even thought about going back to Cuba. You can't imagine how grateful I am they didn't. But they stayed and they persevered. You realize that less than 10 years after my parents came here with nothing, they bought a home? My dad was just a bartender on Miami Beach. They would work for the next few decades very hard. They never made a lot of money. They were never rich. They were never famous. But my parents were successful. Because working as a bartender and a maid, my parents were able to raise a family, retire with dignity. And the most important thing of all for them is they lived to see all 4 of their children live a life better than their own. Now here's the thing, that's my story, and I share it with you because I want you to know a little bit about what drives me, about why it is that I will never give up on this campaign. I want your vote tomorrow, but no matter what happens tomorrow here or anywhere else in this country, I will campaign as long as I have to ensure that the conservative movement is about hope, opportunity, and a better life and the American dream. Because so that's my story, and it drives me. I don't know most of you. I don't know virtually any of you personally, but I know that you're Americans. And that's why I know that in this gymnasium tonight, we're not just all a little warm. We are all a generation or two removed from someone who made our future the purpose of their lives. We are all a generation or two removed from that. Maybe it's what the sacrifices your grandparents made for your parents. Maybe it was your father who you saw work long, tiring hours so you could have a better life. Maybe you were raised by a single mother or a single parent who gave it all up so you could have the chances she never did. Or maybe it's you that's doing that for your children now. Maybe you're one of those people I run to every morning who clean the hotel rooms where we stay. Many of whom know my mother was a maid, and they tell me, I'm doing this so one day my children can be doing something like what you're doing. That's who we are as a people. We all come from that. In your veins runs the blood of go-getters. Every single one of us, whether your ancestors were pilgrims or immigrants or slaves, they all had to overcome extraordinary obstacles to achieve their share of the American dream and a better life. This is who we are, and this is what makes us different. Because every country in the world has rich people, and we celebrate success. But what makes us different is that in this country there are millions of people that aren't even trying to get rich. When you become a nurse or a teacher or a firefighter or a police officer, when you go into the ministry or into the armed forces, you know you're not going to become a billionaire. You're just trying to make enough money to do something you enjoy, save for retirement, send your kids to school, own a home, enjoy your weekends, and live to see your children have a life better than your own. This desire for a better life is universal. Parents all over the world want that for their kids. But it's called the American dream because it's happened so often here, and it has been so rare anywhere else. And if we lose it, we'll stop being a special country. I'm sad to say, but we could lose it. It isn't dead, but it is slipping away. Because for the last 8 years, we've had a president that has taken us away from the principles that made the American dream possible to begin with. And we are reminded that this American dream is possible because each generation before us did what needed to be done. Having the American dream was never easy, and it was never automatic. Every generation before us faced extraordinary challenges. We were founded by declaring independence from the most powerful empire in the world. We had to fight 2 world wars, a civil war, a cold war. We had to go through the Great Depression. The 1960s were very difficult. This nation has always faced great challenges in each generation. You know why? Because being special isn't easy. Each generation before us did what they needed to do to bring us to this point. My friends, now the moment has come for this generation to do its part. Now the time has come for this generation to do what the generations before us did. And if you elect me president, we will do what needs to be done to save the American dream. I know. Let me close by what I did a little earlier in Oklahoma City. I specifically talked to the younger people in the room. Yes, sir. If you're 35 or under, I consider you younger. But all of you. I know that if you're younger now, you read the newspaper every day. Everything seems so negative. The world is going off the cliff. America's, all these problems we have. This is all true. I don't want you to ignore that. It's real. I want you to know something else, by the way. Any study of history will show you that every generation thinks the next generation is really messed up, okay? I don't believe that. Whether it's because I interact with my children and their friends, or because I taught at the Florida International University for 8 years, or just because of this campaign. I honestly believe that our young Americans, millennials and younger, have a chance to be one of the greatest generations America's ever produced. I believe that. You are the best collaborators that have ever lived. You work with people on stuff you don't even know them. You are the most technologically advanced generation that's ever lived. I mean, I see 6-year-olds doing stuff on iPads. They're like, I didn't know you could do that. And the world is about collaboration now. It's about innovation. The world is made for us. There are hundreds of millions of people that now buy things, and they want to buy them from you. There are hundreds of millions of people now that want to do business with you and trade with you and partner with you. Hundreds of millions of people that just a decade ago might have been starving. But now, because free enterprise has spread when communism fell, there are hundreds of millions of people on this planet ready to be your business partners, your clients, and your customers. The world is made for you. But we have to give you a chance, and we're failing right now. But here's what I want you to know. When I'm president, that failure will end. When I'm president, we are going to do what it takes to embrace the opportunities of the 21st century. You will have a president that recognizes our challenges, but you will also have a president that's optimistic and that is excited about our opportunities. You elect me president, and you will have a president that will no longer divide you against each other. You will have a president that will no longer pit you against each other so I can win elections. You will have a president that will work every day for the people, all Americans, even the ones that don't support me. You will have a president that loves all the American people, even the ones that do not love me back. That's the kind of president you're going to get if you elect me. You're going to get a president that will work hard to keep you safe, and a president that will work hard to ensure that free enterprise thrives so he can remain prosperous. And you will have a president that will not stand for a Congress or for a Washington that allows our children to inherit our problems. And I want you to know this, because this is absolutely true. If we do what needs to be done, I want you to know what history is going to say about us. Here's what history is going to say. It's going to say that this generation of Americans in the early years of this new century lived in a very difficult and troubling time. And it will say that after 8 years of Barack Obama and a pretty crazy election, we almost got it wrong. We almost got it wrong. But then in 2016, we remembered who we were. In 2016, we remembered what America was. And we rose up to the task. We did what the generations before us did. We too confronted our challenges. We too embraced our opportunities. And when our work was done, this became the generation that didn't just save the American dream, it expanded it to reach more people and change more lives than ever before. This was the generation. This was the generation that left their children the freest, the most prosperous Americans that ever lived. This was the generation that authored the greatest chapter in American history. This was the generation that made the 21st century a new American century. This is what we have a chance to do together. But first, I need your vote. And I need you to go out and ask people to vote for me. Because friends, don't let friends vote for a socialist like Bernie Sanders. And friends, don't let friends vote for someone who's under FBI investigation, like Hillary Clinton. And friends, don't let friends vote for a con artist either. I am asking you for your vote. I am asking you for your voice. I'm asking you to leave here today and find other people that are still trying to decide and encourage them to vote for us as well. Because here's what's going to happen if I'm elected president. I will work every day, all the time, so that we can leave for the next generation what each generation has left for Americans, what our parents left for us, the single greatest nation in the history of all of mankind. Thank you and God bless you. Thank you very much.